KJ Global Channel. The Political System and Me. Series 4, The Political System Across Every Sector of Society. Episode 46, Youth and Future Citizenship, Education, Jobs, and National Continuity. A nation is not only its territory. A nation is its continuity. And continuity is carried by the young. Not as a slogan. Not as decoration in national ceremonies. Not as a photo opportunity for leaders. But as the living bridge between what has been and what can still be. Every political system, whether it admits it or not, is writing a letter to the next generation. Writes through schools, laws, jobs, freedom, fear, propaganda, prisons, opportunity, humiliation, and dignity. Youth do not simply grow up. Youth are shaped. This is where our question begins. Does the political system prepare young people to become capable democratic citizens, or does it train them for silence, dependence, and escape? If the system educates the mind, protects dignity, and opens opportunity, youth become builders. If it distorts truth, blocks opportunity, and rules through fear, youth may become broken, silent, or rebellious. That is why dictatorships fear youth. Youth are the future. And whoever controls the future controls the long game. The system reveal is youth capability and national continuity. Youth are a nation's strategic asset, not merely its future tense. In plain language, the hidden mechanism is youth capability and national continuity. Control the classroom and you influence the future. Rebuild youth trust and you rebuild democratic possibility. Power without access becomes rage. Participation turns subjects into founders. This episode is about education, jobs, participation, mental well-being, leadership, and continuity. 'Cause democracy is not defended mainly by speeches. It is defended by a generation trained to think, prepared to work, and courageous enough to hold leaders accountable. If youth are lost, the nation is delayed. If youth are awakened, the nation can be reborn. Quality education is the first foundation. Young people need literacy, science, technology, history, languages, practical skills, critical thinking, civic understanding, judgment, curiosity, responsibility, and the ability to distinguish evidence from manipulation. A school that rewards obedience without thought may produce compliance. Does not produce democratic citizenship. Civic learning should explain rights, duties, institutions, public money, elections, courts, local government, peaceful disagreement, lawful participation, fair rules, evidence, and mutual responsibility. Education access must be real. Poverty, conflict, disability, language, gender, distance, displacement, and digital exclusion can remove young people long before they reach opportunity. A nation cannot call youth its future while allowing millions to disappear from the path toward knowledge and work. Employment is the second foundation. A job is more than income. It is structure, dignity, confidence, contribution, and belonging. Youth unemployment is therefore not only an economic problem. It is a political and social warning. When educated young people find no fair path to work, trust collapses. Patronage replaces merit. Migration becomes the only plan. Extremist promises become more attractive. Fair pathways require credible education, vocational training, apprenticeships, career guidance, transparent recruitment, entrepreneurship support, labor protection, and a real connection between training and work. Recruitment must be transparent. Young people should not need family connection, political loyalty, bribery, or personal submission to enter public service, business, education, or professional life. Merit without access is incomplete. Opportunity must reach rural, displaced, disabled, minority, female, and unconnected youth, while young entrepreneurs need fair licensing, credit, infrastructure, contracts, and protection from corruption. Participation is the third foundation. Young people need channels to contribute before frustration becomes protest or withdrawal. Participation can occur through student bodies, councils, youth forums, civic groups, unions, consultations, and parties. It must carry authority, records, responses, follow-up, reasons, and accountability rather than become decoration. Participation must also be safe. Young people should not be exposed to surveillance, retaliation, exploitation, recruitment into violence, or public humiliation for lawful civic involvement. Protection from manipulation is essential. Political actors, commercial platforms, armed groups, and ideological networks may target youth because identity is still forming and trust is still being negotiated. Media literacy, civic education, and strong community institutions help youth recognize manipulation without fearing every idea. The goal is not obedient youth but capable youth. Mental well-being is another foundation. Conflict, displacement, unemployment, family pressure, academic stress, online abuse, and uncertainty can weaken learning, work, relationships, participation, and hope. Support should be accessible, confidential, culturally appropriate, and connected across schools, workplaces, communities, and health systems. Youth policy is therefore national security policy, not military security. Civilizational security. If youth become hopeless, nations become unstable. If youth believe the system is closed, they may leave, withdraw, or seek destructive alternatives. Rebuilding youth trust is urgent civic work. Trust does not come from slogans. It comes from fair rules, visible opportunity, honest institutions, and leaders willing to share power. Leadership begins before high office through responsibility in schools, communities, workplaces, public programs, and local decisions. Mentorship should transfer knowledge and responsibility, not demand loyalty or reproduce patronage. Intergenerational representation means future consequences are considered in present decisions. Budgets, debt, climate policy, education, technology, infrastructure, and natural resources all write conditions for people who do not yet hold power. Young people should have structured ways to examine those decisions and demand reasons. Migration is part of continuity. Can bring skills, income, networks, and experience, but a nation that loses youth because dignity is unavailable loses confidence in its future. Policy should examine why youth leave, what enables safe return, how skills circulate, and how diaspora participation remains constructive. National continuity does not mean forcing young people to remain. It means building a country they can freely choose to invest in. Federal democracy must protect common rights and national belonging without erasing language, region, ethnicity, culture, or local identity. Education, work, participation, and leadership pathways must reach the whole federation, not only capitals and dominant communities. To understand youth and future citizenship, follow the accountability chain. Authority, duty, record, oversight, answer, correction, consequence. Authority asks who approved the education policy, employment program, youth council, scholarship, recruitment rule, or participation mechanism. Duty asks what the ministry, school, employer, local authority, commission, or youth body was required to do. Record asks what evidence should exist. Enrollment, completion, job placement, selection criteria, budgets, participation records, complaints, or outcomes. Oversight asks who can independently examine performance and exclusion. Answer asks who must explain what happened and why. Correction asks what can restore access, improve policy, protect participation, or remove an unfair barrier. Consequence asks what follows when responsibility is deliberately or negligently violated. A broken outcome may begin far upstream. The visible harm may be school exclusion, unemployment, political manipulation, unsafe migration, silenced participation, or lost hope. But the deeper failure may be an unjust rule, an unfunded program, hidden selection criteria, captured oversight, unsafe participation, poor evidence, or remedy that exists only on paper. The chain prevents us from reducing youth failure to one minister, one school, or one generation. It identifies where authority, finance, evidence, participation, protection, correction, or enforcement stopped working. When citizens and professionals locate that break, criticism becomes more accurate and reform becomes more practical. For this episode, the principal mechanism is youth capability and national continuity. The production graphic must make every link readable on a phone screen and label country-specific or proposed arrangements honestly. Under dictatorship, youth citizenship is shaped primarily by concentrated command. Information is restricted, education serves ideology, organizations are controlled, dissent is punished, and challenge may carry personal risk. In a fragile democracy, formal opportunities may exist while patronage, corruption, weak labor markets, politicized education, and poor enforcement leave youth forums without influence, job programs without placement, and participation without safety. In a functioning federal democracy, authority is distributed, common rights remain enforceable, and schools, employers, legislatures, local governments, youth bodies, courts, media, and civil society can test decisions affecting young people. No democratic design is self-executing. The viewer should compare who decides, how authority was obtained, whether records are public, whether youth participate, and whether intergenerational representation and accountability exist in practice. Protection becomes durable only when youth capability is converted into rules, responsibilities, records, and remedies. The minimum guardrails are 1. Quality education and civic learning. Every young person should have access to truthful, inclusive, practical, and rights-respecting education that builds knowledge, judgment, and democratic capacity. 2. Fair pathways to work and skills. Training, apprenticeships, recruitment, entrepreneurship, credit, and career services should connect to real opportunity through transparent criteria. 3. Meaningful youth participation. Youth councils, student bodies, public consultations, parties, and civic institutions should provide safe influence, records, responses, and follow-up. 4. Protection from exploitation and manipulation. Law and institutions should protect young people from forced recruitment, trafficking, abusive labor, political coercion, digital manipulation, and retaliation. 5. Intergenerational representation and accountability. Major decisions about debt, climate, education, technology, resources, and infrastructure should disclose long-term effects and include structured youth scrutiny. These safeguards work as a system. Education without jobs can produce frustration. Jobs without rights can produce exploitation. Participation without influence becomes theater. Opportunity without safety can expose young people. And representation without accountability does not protect the future. Global relevance. Cross-political labels ask who educates youth, who controls opportunity, who can participate, what long-term evidence exists, and whether correction is real. Myanmar relevance. Use lived experience only where it clarifies the mechanism. Do not treat one authority, school system, youth organization, community, armed actor, or proposal as the whole country. Separate existing institutions from interim systems, local practice, migration reality, political commitment, and aspirational federal design. Here is the civic practice for this episode. See and ask. Ask whether young people near you have real channels to participate, or only channels to protest after decisions are already made. Notice barriers in education, work, health, migration, leadership, and safety. Verify. Examine evidence on education, employment, participation, migration, safety, health, and youth policy, disaggregated only where lawful and ethical. Map one youth pathway from education to skills, work, participation, leadership, and national continuity. Identify where the pathway breaks, what evidence should exist, and one institutionally realistic improvement. Protect identities and do not convert the exercise into a public accusation. Review. Record whether you can name the responsible institution, the evidence, the safeguard or remedy, and one safe next step. Protect victims, witnesses, families, confidential records, and digital security before taking any outward step. Youth are the bridge between memory and possibility. If the bridge is broken, the nation cannot cross into the future. If the bridge is strengthened, the nation can carry its best hopes forward with dignity, skill, courage, and democratic discipline. Will young people become guardians of democracy or victims of propaganda? The answer is not predetermined. It is the result of what we build now. That is youth as future citizenship, education as democracy's factory, jobs as hope made real, participation as shared authorship, and continuity as national responsibility. The principle to carry forward is this: youth are a nation's strategic asset, not merely its future tense. Ask yourself, what part of youth citizenship and national continuity have I treated as normal even though it should be visible, answerable, and correctable? From me to us. In the next episode, we continue with children and family policy, safety nets, protection, and nutrition. Continue the playlist, use the worksheet, and keep the practice safe, truthful, and disciplined. The system shapes our lives. Our participation shapes the system. Subscribe, learn, participate, shape the future. KJA, knowledge justifies authority.